Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Creative Well, our virtual retreat where we are talking about refilling, refueling, filling up the tank so that we can then go back out and create full of inspiration, fold up to overflowing. Today, I am so happy to welcome Sage Adderley to our event. Welcome, Sage.
Oh, hey. I'm like, that's me. I'm so excited.
That's you. And for those of you who have been hanging out in this community for a while, you might recognize Sage because she has been here before. She is actually, I believe she is the only person who has been featured on all three of these community events that I've done since starting my business. So she is, and that is because she is so much fun to collaborate with. And every time I collaborate with Sage, I learn something, I do something I've never done before, and it's just so much fun to be in her energy. So we're so happy to have you here today, Sage.
Thank you. I really love co-creating with you, which is why when you reach out, I'm like, yes, sign me up.
Awesome. So I'm going to tell you a little about Sage and then we're going to chat for a bit. So Sage Adderley is a published author and the founder of Tell Your Story LLC. She has over 18 years of creative writing and self-publishing experience, and she successfully shifts creatives from overwhelm and stuckness into movement on their books. She is a certified intentional creativity teacher and a certified cosmic smashbook guide. And she is masterful at working with mindset and standing for women on their healing journeys and guiding people to write their stories. So beautiful to have you here today, Sage. And I want to dive in. The first question I want to ask you today, you mentioned in your bio that you work with overwhelm. And that's something I talk a lot about too in our community, because I really think that overwhelm is like the number one killer of like our creative dreams and visions and
Yes.
goals. So can you talk just a little bit about like how you see overwhelm show up and how you guide people into working through overwhelm?
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah, overwhelm is the worst. I was listening. I'm like, overwhelm's the worst. I think overwhelm for me happens when we try to do all the things. And especially for women, I find women say yes a lot. We want to support all the people in our lives, and that leads to overwhelm. And I think it's trying to find this balance, this harmony of taking sacred care of ourselves and also being of service. And so I think when we lose sight of taking sacred care of ourselves, and we're like, we want to do all the things and we want to help all the people and we want to volunteer, and we just end up like overflowing. We call it like a life plate. I always say we have a life platter. Like a plate will not carry all the things.
Yeah.
But I think that's when overwhelm happens, when we disconnect from what we actually need and we just take it all on. Yeah, and then overwhelm is just like, oh hey, remember me, the thing that freaks you out and it's a huge disruptor. um what was the second part to that question, Aimee?
How do you guide people when you're working with creatives who are in that overwhelmed state? Do you have like,
Awesome.
how do you guide people through it? Or how do you start the journey to reducing the overwhelm?
I think normalizing that it's okay not to say yes to all the things, that it's okay not to do all the things. And really, I do really basic things. I think simple is amazing. Simple is overlooked. And I sometimes have my clients keep a time log of their day. And when they start recognizing all that they do, how much time that they're in service of other people, or recognizing that maybe they're on back-to-back calls and they're not eating lunch. Like, it's one thing to keep things in our heads, it's another to visually see it on paper. So I provide them with different activities where they can start seeing where their time goes, where their energy's going, and that they're not doing anything wrong. They're a human being, and the things they're putting on their plate is just not attainable to do day after day after day. So it's like first acknowledging that they're overwhelmed, that that's a real thing, and then breaking it down to, well, then how do I choose what gets to come and what gets to go, what gets to have a pin put in it for another time, and setting healthy boundaries. That's huge. Setting healthy boundaries and, learning what it looks like to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And I also think like we just live in a really overwhelming world in our modern times. Like there's so much input coming at us all the
Yeah.
time. So it's almost like you said, it's become very normal, like a very normalized
Yeah.
thing. Like we're all overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
what can we do about it?
Yeah, like it's normal to play catch up and it's normal to be behind and it's normal to be in this frenzy of getting in the daily grind and I'm like, how normal is it though actually? Because I will say when I'm in a place of overwhelm, I feel really bad. Like I actually cannot stand the way overwhelm feels in my body. And to me, that's like it's almost like a trigger for me to go, whoa, slow down. You might have overcommitted. Like, let's stop and check in because my body's like, oh no, 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 we're not going there again. Because once you learn what it's like to live without always being in a state of overwhelm, it's like you don't want to go back to that.
Yeah, and how many of us probably have never experienced that because our world is overwhelming. And so,
Yeah, it is. And, I talked about this recently where I recognize like, wow, I've been living in survival mode for most of my life. And so when you're in survival mode, you don't have this awareness of like, I'm taking on too much. You're just trying to survive each day. So it's a lot of just inner work, I think, to really understand how we're showing up, why, there's always something underneath it that it's nothing we did wrong. It's not about making anyone wrong or being in judgment of the choices we make. It's just understanding that maybe things that we needed to do at one time in our life were necessary, but we don't have to choose that way any longer.
yes. So as we sort of try to kind of move away from this perpetual overwhelm state, Sage, how do you tune into like your own natural rhythm as opposed to like the go 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 rhythm of sort of our modern world?
Yeah, I think it's truly going within and listening to myself and trusting myself. I put myself on a personal mission this year that anything that intuitively came up, I wasn't going to doubt it. I wasn't going to question it. I was going to follow it, even if it was terrifying. And, it wasn't like I was making massive life changing, decisions, but just little things of like, maybe say no to that
Mm,
or oh, that feels good. Things that maybe I would have suppressed and chose out of people pleasing. So
yeah.
for me, it's as simple as like quieting the noise in
Mm,
the external world and really just going, what do I want? What do I need? What's good for me? And I think it's a practice. I don't think that the first time I did it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a changed woman. I am now super intuitive and listening to myself, like I still sometimes will intuitively pick up on something and then I'll be like, and then I'm like, don't do it. Don't overthink it. Don't complicate this moment. So it's a practice of what does it look like to quiet the mind, to quiet our surroundings and be in a practice of being with ourselves.
yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely. So Sage, in this retreat, we've been talking about, refilling when the well, and we're using the image of a well, when the well is dry, when we're totally depleted of our resources. And I've been asking my guests, for you personally, what are those telltale signs or red flags that you notice when you're getting into that depleted state, when you haven't refilled or refueled?
Yeah. When my well is gone. My
When the
well is
well is
empty.
dry, yeah.
Uh, so I can feel like a sense of agitation, almost like just being ultra sensitive, and I'm not using the word sensitive in a dismissive way because sometimes folks are called sensitive and people are being a jerk about it. And I think it's beautiful to be sensitive, but I feel like almost like I got feelers on the outside of my body. Like I just feel extra prickly. And I think it's just my body saying enough, whatever it is, it's too much. I feel fatigue in a deeper way than I normally do. So it's usually the signs of feeling fatigue in my body. I'm like, oh, what's going on that I feel this tired, like that my energy is so low. And if I'm feeling extra prickly, that's usually like, all right, calm down, reset. the well is empty.
Yep. I love how, as I'm doing these interviews, I love the themes that are emerging, like the different, there's a lot of, everyone has their own little red flags, but there's a lot of common themes in them that are coming through. So it's fun to
Oh,
hear
cool.
these transitions. And so when you're in that depleted state, what are your go-to strategies to refill the well?
So my one thing that's been my jam for a while now is taking a bath. Um, that has been a practice for me. I would always hear like, oh, relax, take a bath. And I would get in the bath and I would be like, so what do I do now?
Yes.
I was so like detached from rest and nourishment that I was like, so what do you do in this bath? Like, what am I? Nothing. You just get to be. And now I know exactly who I get to be in the bath. I'm like queen of nourishment. So a bath like is one of the most relaxing, grounding things for me. And I speak into this too for those who know me and you follow astrology and you believe in it. I'm triple fire in my moon sign, my sun sign, and my rising sign. And that's a very great representation of me as a human, the triple fire. And so it makes total sense that the water soothes me, nourishes me, calms me, and that's my grounding tool is water. And I always used to hear like, put my feet in the soil or your hands in the soil. And of course, earth is very grounding. I mean, hello. But for me, water is even more potent. Um, and also learning not to shame myself if I want to take a nap, because growing up, naps equaled laziness. And
Yes.
so that's like an old story that's not mine that I'm rewriting. Taking naps definitely fills me back up. Taking a bath fills me back up. And one that was a last one that sticks out is, where am I not asking for help? When I feel that depleted, I ask myself, am I trying to do everything on my own? What is something that I could reach out to someone for and ask for help? And there's never been a time that I've asked myself that question that I wasn't able to find something that I could ask for help with.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I still remember like the first time that I realized I like my kids were like triple booked and I couldn't get to all the places and I was like, I can call another mother and ask her to bring my daughter. Like I have permission to do that. It's okay. And of course the other mother was like, of course I'll help. Like, and yeah, that
Right.
was a big, way bigger revelation than maybe it should have been that I'm allowed to ask for help. Not only am I allowed to ask for help, but there are other people in the world who are, you know, it fills them up to help. And it fills all of us up to help. So yes, help is a big one for sure.
Yeah. Can we normalize that?
Mhm. So Sage, I know you have an art practice you're gonna do with us today. Can you tell us about what we're gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, when you invited me and shared the whole intention of this event, I was like, wow, I just started reflecting like for me, and I've shared already, like going within and really being connected to myself is the most powerful way to know my well is depleted. It gets to be filled back up. I get to nourish myself. And so I created this activity that I've never taught before. It's brand new. So let's see how it goes.
Right.
Um, we're going to do some journaling. And we're going to do just a really brief visualization, and we're going to explore what our own inner compass feels like, looks like, and how do we connect to that? How can we be connected to what our inner knowing needs when our well is like running low or on empty? So that's what we're going to do.
Sounds
So I'm
fun.
gonna switch my camera over because I'm gonna show you. I'm working in a cosmic smash book, but you could work in anything. You could work in a journal. You could have a sheet of paper. It's totally fine. And I'm gonna write and let you know the first prompt is, what values and principles guide your life? What values and principles guide your life. And just really inviting you not to overthink this, just right from your heart. Doesn't have to make sense, doesn't have to be in complete sentences. We're just going to spend a minute or two on this. We're really just exploring what truly matters to us. My values are my grounding tool. Okay, so I would finish up whatever thought, sentence, feeling you're working on. And we're going to shift into the next journal prompt, which is, what does your ideal life look like? How does it feel? Who are you at this ideal life? Maybe you're exactly the way you are, and that's a beautiful thing. So I would document what makes it so spectacular, because we want to stay connected with that. Okay, now to wrap up wherever you're at. And we're going to shift into our third journal prompt, which is, describe a time you felt aligned with your most true self. Describe a time you felt aligned with your most true self. Who were you with? Were you on your own? Were you with others? Were you in the doing, in the being? We'll finish up wherever you're at. I'm going to shift my camera again so you can see me for the next step. How was that, Aimee? Did anything come up for you that was surprising or?
I don't know if it was super surprising, but just a good reaffirmation that my ideal life was the word spacious came
Mhm.
through. So it wasn't running around being overwhelmed by all the things all the time. That wasn't it. That wasn't the dream. It was
Yeah,
a life where things are spacious and there is enough time and energy to give all the things that are important.
I love that. An abundance of all the things. I
Mhm.
love that. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes. And if you want to put your hand on your heart, if that feels good, feel free to do that. Let's just take a breath together. Take a breath in and release. I want you just to think about what came out when you did your free writing, how it felt to be connected with your true self, living and being in your ideal life, the values that matter most to you. And when you're connected to that information, where can you feel it in your body? Maybe you could put your hand where you feel it in your body. Maybe that's where your inner compass, maybe that's where it energetically exists. And so I'm just going to put my hand on my stomach. That's where I feel it. Inviting you to imagine, what could your inner compass look like? Is it an object? A shape? What colors come through when you think about your inner compass? And if your inner compass has the directions on it, where's your compass pointed to? And just be there for a moment. And if you feel like you don't see anything, just imagine. Just use your imagination. What could your inner compass look like? Let's take another breath in and release. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, I'm going to shift the camera again. All right. Okay, so now I'm inviting us to have some color play. And I am actually going to paint over my journal prompts. If you don't want to do that, don't. You can use a new sheet of paper. But let's get on using color. Let's get our compass down. If you saw or felt a symbol, an actual object, you can just do color work. But let's put some kind of depiction down of our inner compass. And if you don't have paint, you could use markers, crayons. I'm actually going to shift my paper vertically because my compass felt like it was actually going to take up more space here. So I'm going to use paints and I'm going to use watercolor. I'm just intuitively jumping in and making decisions on the fly. I thought I was going to do acrylic and nope. And the colors that came up for me were red and yellow. So I'm just going to take my red visualizations can be so interesting because sometimes you can feel the way you think it is, and you don't necessarily see it. There is absolutely no wrong way to visualize. That would be silly. Whatever comes up for you is just so. Like, I didn't see a spiral, but just intuitively, I'm feeling like, oh, there's a spiral in the middle of my compass. So I'm going to add one. Because that feels good. Aimee, did you have a direction come up on your compass?
My compass was pointing, I had all four directions, northeast, southwest kind of image. So I'm putting
Yeah.
four arrows on my compass right now.
Awesome. I had mine was like pointing north. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to read about the north.
That makes me think of like the North Star.
Oh, I love that.
Exciting.
And allow your compass to be imperfect. Like now that I look on the screen, I see where mine is totally not in alignment, and that's okay. It's it's just like let it go, let it be messy, let it be what it is fine. Oh, I like that, the North Star. I have to keep that in mind. I like how funky the spiral is. And I also had yellow pop up. It's like all of this radiant yellow around the compass.
And I had a lot of yellow also.
Oh, I love that. I'm loving my crooked old compass. I like when stuff like that happens. I know it can be like uncomfortable for some folks. It used to be uncomfortable for me too, being totally transparent. I wasn't always like, yay, being messy is easy. But now it's just I giggle at it and I just remind myself nothing is just so, and the more that we can embrace the messiness, I feel like there's freedom there.
Yes. Fear of being messy is a real creative block.
Yes. Yes. It is definitely one of the biggest reasons that I bring creative activities into my container with writers. The fear of like not choosing the words that are just so, or for things not to be perfect, and allowing them to be messy with mixed media, paints, whatever that looks like, and inviting just that messy energy in, that it's okay.
Mhm.
And I actually think it's very serving to embrace messiness.
As a mother, I try to give my kids permission to be messy within the boundaries of having a functional
Right? There's a both and there. Yeah, I'm just inviting you to be with the colors that came up. Just be curious. I love when I create anything intuitive like this to just afterwards be with it, be curious about it, be curious about the symbols that came up, be curious about the colors that came up, be curious about the feelings that come up when you look at it. What comes up for you? What does it mean for you? It's so interesting. It's like I'm looking at it here and then I'm looking at it on the screen because I can see the spiral better on the screen. But it almost feels like this birthing canal. Like it feels like this center of creation. That's interesting. Yeah, just get curious with it. What comes up? And remember, this what emerged from within you, from within your place that is grounding, that is intuitive, that is your inner knowing. I'm really like, okay, my heart might be a little crooked, but it's facing up. Oh, it's so great. What's happening over there, Aimee? I'm going to shift over. I want to see what's coming up for you.
So I love working with the compass image. That's why my community is called Creative Compass. So this was really, really fun. So I've got like a heart right in the center.
I love that.
Then I drew the four arrows. And then as soon as I drew this one, I felt like fire
Mm.
coming in. And I was like, oh, I've got some elements coming, fire. So I put water at the bottom. And then I drew the flower over here for earth. And then I was like, I don't see anything at the fourth arrow. And I was like, well, the fourth one is air, right? And air doesn't look like anything. So
It's the spaciousness that you're
it's the
calling it.
spaciousness, yes. And it is there is a lot of spaciousness. Like there's a lot of white space on the
Mhm.
page. And that wasn't because I ran out of time. I didn't feel called to fill all the white space. So yeah, I think there is a sort of spaciousness theme going
I
on.
think that that's beautiful. And I think there's something really interesting that I notice in my own artwork or whatever kind of creative exercise I'm doing, that when I have spaciousness, my first instinct is to want to fill it.
Mm,
And I'm like, wow, how is that a reflection of me in life where it's like, oh, I've got some time, let me fill it. Let me fill it. And it's like, for me, my growth point is like learning to be. I'm great at the doing. So when I have space, when space like that comes up for me, I'm like, just leave it be. Just like let it be. So I think that's awesome. You got so much spaciousness and that you're leaving it be on your compass. I like really love my compass. I'm like, can
I
I
love
show you one
mine
more
too.
time?
Yes, I was going to ask you to show it to us one more time.
I love my compass. I love my compass. I hope you out there creating your compass love your compass as much as I love mine. Like, let this be a reflection of who we are and who we get to be and what we want to create in the world and trusting ourselves. To me, that's the whole idea of being connected to our inner knowing, is trusting when we know our well is empty, our well is running low. Like, what do I get to do to shift into nourishing myself and filling it back up?
Yeah. Go back to the compass. Where is it pointing you?
What are my values?
Yep. That. Sage, thank you so much for guiding us through that. That was a great exercise. Those questions, those writing prompts were all really super juicy. I feel like I could go back and dive into each one of those for like a
Oh,
whole
for sure.
page in my journal. So a lot
Yeah.
to think about for sure. Um,
Yeah.
all right, Sage, thank you so much for being here today. It's always so much fun to hang out with you and create with you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. And we would love to see what your compass looks like. Pop into our Facebook group and share with us what your compass you created today looks like. We would love to see them.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Aimee. It's always, always such a joy to co-create with you. I'm so honored to be here, and I can't wait to see those compasses.
Yes, same, same. All right, have a great day, everybody. And we'll be back soon with another session. Bye now.